They got Willa. They got my daughter. I need to find her.
From acclaimed director Paul Thomas Anderson.
You can save that girl.
Today, experience what is being called the best movie of the year.
This is the end of the line. Not for you.
Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, Tiana Taylor, Chase Infinity.
Let's go! Here I am.
One battle after another. Now playing only in theaters. Experience it in IMAX. Rated R. Under 17 animated without parent.
You can't hide.
Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.
Icy Hot Pro with 2 max strength pain relievers. Targets multiple pain receptors. Ice works fast. Heat makes it last.
4 weeks into the NFL season, and it appears reports of the Kansas City Chiefs' demise were in fact premature. On Sunday afternoon, we saw the return of Showtime Mahomes as Patrick Mahomes threw 4 touchdown passes, leading the Chiefs to a rout of the Baltimore Ravens by 37 points to 20. And he had his deep threat wide receiver back on the field, Xavier Worthy, finishing with 5 catches for 83 yards. But what of the Ravens? Is it time to be concerned about them now? With a 1-3 record, they also lost star quarterback Lamar Jackson in that defeat with a hamstring strain. Has in fact the schedule maker been kind to them this week though? Because they have a home date against the beleaguered Houston Texans. It's a get-right game that they simply must have. Elsewhere, the Detroit Lions juggernaut just continues to roll. They squashed the number 1 ranked defense of the Cleveland Browns this past Sunday with another hugely impressive offensive display. And how about a 40-40 tie? Yes, you heard me right. That was the scoreline when the dust settled on Sunday Night Football in Dallas, Texas. The Cowboys and the Packers battling it out to a 40-40 tie. And through 2 weeks of the season, the Packers were the darlings of the NFL, being touted as genuine Super Bowl contenders. Well, 2 games later, in a defeat to the Cleveland Browns and a tie in Dallas, how do we feel about the team now, Green Bay fans? It all means we're left with just 2 undefeated teams after the first month of the season. The Bills and the Eagles sit proudly on top of the AFC and NFC conferences respectively, while 2 teams are still struggling to get that big fat 0 off the win column. The Jets and the Titans still searching for that first W of this fledgling campaign. And we haven't even mentioned the show finally has a winning record in week 4 of the NFL season. It all means I cannot wait for week 5. So let's turn that page and look ahead to week 5 in the NFL.
Graves on Gridiron with Richard Graves.
Hello, welcome along to the show. This is Graves on Gridiron. I am your host, Richard Graves, and you heard me right. It took until week 4, but the show finally has a winning record against the line, going 2-1 against the line in week 4. I will admit, it didn't get off to the greatest start. Remember, we picked the Vikings as 2.5-point favourites against the Pittsburgh Steelers as the NFL hosted its first ever regular season game in Dublin, Ireland. It looked like a superb occasion over there at Croke Park, except for the fact that the Vikings didn't show up until late in the game. It wasn't enough. Having been 2.5-point favourites, they fell to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Elsewhere, though, it got a lot better. I said last week on this show, if you look at the New York Giants, there aren't a lot of points in the games they're involved in. The total line for points in that game was 44. I said go under, and it was under. Although the Giants won't care because they got off the mark. Their first win of the season, upsetting the previously undefeated LA Chargers. The Giants winning 21 points to 18. So that was a tick in the win column. And then the big call of week 3 was the big game. The Chiefs and the Ravens at Arrowhead Stadium. The Chiefs, incredibly for me, 2.5-point underdogs to a team that was coming in there with a 1-2 record. I said, do not waver. Back Patrick Mahomes, take the Chiefs against the line. you didn't need to bother against the line. They had their way with the Baltimore Ravens, sticking 37 points on the board, and their defense whipped the Ravens' offense. Lamar Jackson knocked out of the game. The Chiefs are 2-2. The Ravens are lowly 1-3. What it all means over the course of the season for the show's record against the line. Still work to do, but it looks healthier now than it did this time last week. We are 4-7-1. That's right. The Packers and the Cowboys aren't the only team that can have a tie. We've got a tie on the record as well, going back to week 1, which ironically enough involved the Ravens and the Bills. So, week 5, what does that have in store? Already only 2 undefeated teams remaining. Now just 2 teams are looking to get off the mark as well this season. We'll start in Cincinnati with the Lions going to the Bengals. The Bengals are 2-2 record. The Lions 3-1. But those records are slightly deceiving. Remember, the Bengals might be at 500, but they were 2-0 with starting quarterback Joe Burrow in the team. Well, the 2 games they've played without Joe Burrow in the team, they have an aggregate score of 13-76. They can't put points on the board. They cannot stop opposition scoring points against them. And now you've got the Detroit Lions and the number 1 ranked scoring offense heading into town. Remember, back in week 1, this Lions team went into Green Bay. They lost 27 points to 13. And people were saying, well, you've lost your defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn. You've lost your offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson. Is that impacting this Lions team? Can they get over that? Well, in 3 weeks since, they've got over it, and in some style. Amon-Ra St. Brown is living in the end zone right now. He has 6 touchdowns to his name. Jahmyr Gibbs, one of their star running backs, 4 touchdowns to his name. Remember David Montgomery, that complement to the 2-headed monster in the backfield, had his way trampling all over the Baltimore Ravens in week 3. This is, if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, this is a team you look at and you ought to be scared because you don't have a great defense. You have an offense which relies heavily on the face of the franchise, Joe Burrow. He's not able to be on the field right now. You've got an offense which is ranked 27th in scoring. Our defense rather ranks 27th in scoring, as in points allowed. They're giving up a lick under 30 points a game. In overall defense, they're ranked 29th. Look at the line. The Detroit Lions are 10-point favorites, which seems a lot in any NFL matchup. But you look at the way the Lions have been playing over the last few weeks, their toughest challenge was facing this Cleveland Browns defense, which, you know, the Browns as an organization aren't a great team this year, and I don't think anybody's predicting they'll be making the postseason. But their defense is going to be enough to give a game to anybody. And ultimately, the Lions just had their way in the second half last weekend. It helps that special teams delivered a touchdown for Detroit as well. And frankly, the Bengals aren't in the same league as the Browns defense. So you're turning around to me right now and saying the Lions are giving them 10 points. I will turn around to you and say the Detroit Lions offense has scored 124 points in its last 3 outings. That's more than 40 points a game against a team that's only scored 13 points combined in their last 2 games. Give me the Detroit Lions at -10. In a moment, we'll be looking at the Commanders at the Chargers. And that's right, you keep going back to the well. The Giants keep delivering victories for this show against the line. I'm going to be looking at the Giants and Saints matchup. You might say, what, Richard? Why? I'll tell you next on Graves on Gridiron.
Tonight, turn down the noise of the day and focus on the rest with AGZ, the nightly drink for winding down and resting up. New from AG1. AGZ supports your body's natural sleep cycle with clinically studied key herbs, adaptogens, and minerals in amounts supported by research. And no melatonin, helping you wake feeling rested. Wind down, rest up with AGZ. Learn more at drinkagz.com.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Graves on Gridiron with Richard Graves.
Hello, welcome back to the show. This is Graves on Gridiron. I'm your host, Richard Graves. We've already previewed one matchup from the Week 5 slate. The Lions and the Bengals. Detroit, 10-point favourites on the road. Don't bat an eyelid. You take that. Detroit all day long. Two more games to preview in this week's slate. And we start with the Washington Commanders with a 2-2 record, travelling cross-country to the West Coast to face the 3-1 LA Chargers. And you better believe that the Chargers will feel they've got a point to prove this weekend, having lost their previously undefeated record to the New York Giants. That's right, you heard me right. Last week, the Giants were the team looking to get off the mark, and they did so, starting Jackson Dart under center at quarterback. Nevertheless, a hugely dispiriting result for the Chargers. Their own quarterback, Justin Herbert, did not play well, which was a surprise because he's been pretty much elite through the first 3 weeks of the season. What's the explanation for that defeat? Well, I don't think anybody as yet has quite been able to come up with one, but you can bet your bottom dollar head coach Jim Harbaugh will have this team ready to play and to bounce back this coming weekend. The only explanation I can offer is that through the first 3 weeks, the Chargers have been to Brazil, beaten the Chiefs, followed it up with a road win in Las Vegas against the Raiders, and then defeated the Denver Broncos on home turf. All 3 games against division rivals. So just maybe there was something of an after the Lord Mayor's show type of feel about that performance that the Chargers put out on the field last weekend. If that was the case, you better believe that Jim Harbaugh will have let them know about it in the preparation for this week's matchup. Now, the Commanders' record is at 500. What do we make of that? Well, they handled the New York Giants in week 1. You'd expect that. And they defeated the Las Vegas Raiders without Jaden Daniels, incidentally. He's missed the last 2 weeks with having tweaked his knee in the loss at Green Bay. All signs at this point, at the time of recording, suggest that he might be good to go in this match, and they need him. Because last time out, on the road in Atlanta, the Falcons had their way with this Washington Commanders defense. The tackling, well, just from the eye test, it was poor last week. I've seen comments from a number of colleagues in the media that were at the game. They were a little bit stronger about their feelings regarding the Commanders' defense and the lack of tackling in that game. That's something that's going to need to be addressed if they're to have any chance against the Chargers, because the one thing you know you're going to get when you face the LA Chargers is a tough, bruising, physical encounter. This is a team that likes to play physical football. Amarian Hampton, their rookie running back, seems to be getting stronger and better with every passing game. He will see the ball early and often in this matchup. And then Justin Herbert, I cannot believe he will play nearly as badly as he did against the Giants last week. He's got a live arm. He's got receivers, in particularly Quinton Johnson and Keenan Allen, who can make plays downfield. If I'm Washington, this is a scary matchup for me, because let's just look at their 4 results so far this season. They restricted the New York Giants to 6 points week 1. That's fine. We know the Giants can't particularly put points on the board. They shipped 27 on the road to Green Bay. Okay, it's a Thursday night game at Lambeau Field, hostile environment. Maybe that's a mitigating factor in that. You concede 24 at home to the Las Vegas Raiders. Slight red flag. I don't think the Raiders are that good. You win the game, but you allow 24 points. And then last weekend, this is where the red flag comes in. You ship 34 on the road to the Atlanta Falcons. This was a Falcons team that couldn't get past the 30-yard line just 7 days earlier against the Carolina Panthers. Well, they got past the 30-yard line and then some repeatedly last weekend. Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, their two-headed monster at running back, Both had field days. Both found pay dirt and the end zone against this Commanders defense. So they need Jaden Daniels to be coming back and be fit this weekend. Even if he is, though, remember, he's coming back off a tweaked knee. The Commanders aren't going to want to put him in a position too often where he's scrambling, extending plays out of the pocket. This won't be the Jaden Daniels that we're used to seeing when he's fully healthy. So you've got a Commanders defense that ranks middle of the table, 16th against the run. You've just seen two running backs from the same team have days against them, 7 days removed. Now you've got Hampton coming into town. The one cause for concern, if you're a Chargers fan, is already you knew you were without Rashawn Slater, the star left tackle for the season. But now Joe Alt left last week's defeat against the Giants with a high ankle sprain. He looks likely to miss a couple of games at least while he recovers from that. So does that weaken the offensive line? Does that give the pass rush for the Commanders an opportunity? Perhaps. But I like this Chargers team. I said before a ball had been snapped in anger this season that I think the Chargers will make the postseason. The Commanders, 2-2, I think that reflects the type of team they are. The Chargers are 3-1. They're coming off the back of a disappointing loss. I expect to see a response this weekend. They're back on home turf. They're 2.5-point favourites. Jaden Daniels, even if he returns, is not a fully healthy Jaden Daniels. I'm pinning my flag to the master of the LA Chargers. Take the Chargers not only to win, but to cover at -2.5 points. So, 2 games in the books. Who's the third? I make no apologies for this. It's not the sexiest matchup on the Week 5 slate. Some would say it's a dour matchup, but we're not about the quality of the matchups. We're about where's the best value in the spread being offered. And it lies in New Orleans, Louisiana. The Saints hosting the New York Giants. We've gone with the Giants back-to-back weeks. They've delivered big W's for the show in back-to-back weeks. Can we make it 3 in a row? Well, let's take a look. The Giants head into this on the back of their first win of the season with a 1-3 record against a hapless New Orleans Saints team with a rookie head coach in Kellen Moore. They've got a quarterback in Spencer Rattler who's still trying to find his way, and they have an 0-4 record. Here's the positive for the New York Giants. The line is just a point. The odds makers cannot put a slip of paper between these two teams. They make the Giants 1-point underdogs coming into this game, even though they're the team with the win, the lone win out of these two in this matchup. And that's on the back of rookie quarterback Jackson Dart starting last week. He's mobile. He has a live arm. Cam Scatterboo is a physical, tough, downhill, a north-south runner. He gives them a physicality, and that works for them last weekend. Here's the downside. There's no star wide receiver now for the rest of the season. Malik Neighbors, in an ugly-looking leg injury, turned out to have damaged his ACL. He will not be back until next year, 2026. This is a team that have scored 73 points across their 4 games on offense. But do not be fooled by it, because that looks serviceable. 37 of those came in one game in a loss on the road in Dallas, Texas. Look at the other 3 games. What do you have? 21 points, 9 points, 6 points. So yes, I hear you, Giants fans. Jackson Dart is now under center. You scored 21 points against a tough physical LA Chargers team last weekend. That game was on home soil. You're now going on the road, and you're going against a defense which isn't the worst, and an offense which has pieces that can make plays. Spencer Rattler might be a mirror reflection of Jackson Dart. He's a mobile quarterback. He's got a live arm. He can make plays, both with his legs and through the air. But they have Alvin Kamara, the proven veteran from running back, and they have Chris Olave at wide receiver, who found the end zone for the first time of this season in last week's defeat on the road in Buffalo. And I'll say this as well, even though that was a defeat in Buffalo, this Saints team turned a few heads. They gave the Bills a few frights in that game. It was an impressive performance, albeit in defeat. Now, Giants fans, hang on. I know you're saying, hang on a minute, look at their offense. Look at how many points the Saints have scored, because you've just highlighted the shortcomings in our own, and you're right. 13 points, 21 points, 13 points, 19 points. Make no mistake, this is not going to be a high-scoring game. And you look at the two defenses, well, overall, the Giants were ranked 29th. Overall, the Saints are 18th. They're not winning games on their own. What I will say is defense wins championships. I believe that. And you've got two offenses coming into town that can't really do much either. So, do you want to take the under on the total points? You might consider it. It's only 40. It's a little bit low. If this was being played in New York at MetLife Stadium, I'd say, yeah, fire away. Let's go under. It might only be 40, but even in the win last week, 21-18, that was 39 points against the Chargers. I like the under there. But this is in New Orleans. It's a rowdy, raucous atmosphere in the Superdome. The Saints, I feel, are on the cusp of showing us something. I think this could be the time. They put 19 on the board against the Bills on the road last weekend. They could get something going here against the New York Giants. I'll be up front. I think the Giants' defense is the best unit on that team in New York. But it can be had. The Cowboys showed that in week 2. Now you're going on the road again. You're going to New Orleans. The Saints want to get off the mark. You've got an offensive mind in Kellen Moore as head coach that can scheme up plays. He can put his players in positions to win, and they've shown sparks. For me, this is the weekend they get off the mark. So they might be 1-point favorites going into this game. They might be winless, but I think all that changes against this New York Giants team. Remember, Jackson Dart is a rookie quarterback. There will be growing pains. What happens when things go wrong? What happens when there's a turnover? What happens if you're chasing the game? I think this is the weekend when we find out some of the answers to those questions. I am going to go with the New Orleans Saints. There might be two teams looking for a win right now, the Titans and the Saints. I can't speak about the Tennessee Titans. I can speak about the New Orleans Saints this matchup. I don't think they'll be winless when we talk about it heading into week 6. Take the Saints to cover at -1 and gain their first win of the season. So there you go. We have 3 games from the week 5 slate. We're looking to back it up and go back-to-back on the show. A winning 2-1 record in week 4. Let's have a winning record in week 5. A reminder of the matchups previewed from this week's slate. The Lions go to the Bengals. Detroit heavy 10-point favorites. I do not miss a heartbeat in taking the Detroit Lions to cover that spread. Then it's on to Los Angeles as the Chargers host the Commanders. The Chargers 2.5-point favorites. They have a point to prove against a banged-up quarterback who we expect to return this week in Jaden Daniels. I'm not convinced he's healthy, and I'm not convinced this Commanders team is the same team that made it all the way to the NFC Championship game last season. Take the Chargers to cover at -2.5 points before we finish in New Orleans, Louisiana. The Giants and the Saints, two teams struggling to find their way. The odds makers feel the same way too, but by virtue of having home field advantage, they make the Saints 1-point favorites. And I agree. I think home field advantage will be a deciding factor in this game. Take the Saints to record their first win of the season and cover at -1. As I always point out at this juncture, Sundays are about enjoyment. This show and everything we talk about is about adding to that and accompanying your fun whilst you're watching the matchups on a Sunday afternoon. Keep that in mind. As always, if you've got any comments, I've had New York Giants fans already get in touch with me on social media this season. I welcome them. I want to know your thoughts, whether you agree or disagree. On X, it's at RichardGraves1. On Instagram, it's at RDG Media UK. I am excited. There's a winning feeling about the show, and I think we're going to carry it on in some style. Week 5 is just around the corner, and I can't wait. For now, so long, everybody.
Subscribe to Graves on Gridiron wherever you listen to podcasts. And keep up to date with the latest on Twitter. Search for Richard Graves 1. That's Richard Graves, the number 1.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.